It is Thursday, the 22nd of January, and it snowed again, another 4+ inches. It's back the way it used to be. Ye oldie winteries. Just coming down to feed the cows. See how they did. I started putting out 2 bales of silage, so then and those days when it's super moldy, I'm not having to immediately run and get another bale. I was trying to plan for this snowstorm and the weather that's coming. So tomorrow is going to be mild again, and I'll deliver another 2 bales before we get the deep minus cold that we're getting. But yeah, snow. This last year was the most snow we'd seen in 6 years, cumulatively. And this year looks like it's going to match last year at least for snow. We've already had a couple feet total, even though it's melted and rained and melted. And certainly the what are we up to now? 6 and 2 and 8, 9. Yeah, this is another foot at least totals with this 4 inches here. So yeah, it's pretty, it's nice. I mean, the arbor looks beautiful, the forest is gorgeous. But this pile of snow on the roof above me is a little bit concerning. It's gonna come crashing down one of these days. It's mild today. It's a strange sticky snow as well. So that roof snow may come off today because it's gonna get up to, I think the high is supposed to be close to 40 just for today, and then tomorrow the high is going to be 27 again. I would like to be working on the boiler and getting it going, but I've got too many other things that are going to get in the way, I think. Anyway, I get these cows fed. I'm about to plow the driveway again and get this day started. Well, it's Thursday afternoon around 2, and I'm finally getting started on something. I've been running stuff around and getting prepped to do this job, but I had to undo the wire because it was all wrapped around these pipes. Somehow in feeding pipes I got it tangled, but I'm out here insulating and straightening and getting the PEX lines to the barn. I'm going to attach it to that board that I put up and probably mount it to that wall somehow. Guess I'll have to get my rotohammer down here and some concrete anchors, and I've got some straps that'll just attach it to the wall. Just keep it up off the ground, out of the way, in as straight a line as possible. I do have to feed. I've taken a lot of PEX up into the barn. I do have to feed some more of this tangle of loops and coils up into the barn. I wish I had some help. I should have arranged something for today, but I honestly thought I was going to get to this yesterday. I needed to have gotten to this yesterday. I could have been filling the system with water right now, and it's 40 degrees out in the sun and maybe even more, and with a little bit of wind back here, but it's nice. It's so nice. But this is the last warm day for a long time. So in January, this is kind of, we get a week like this. We've had a couple. So this is fairly rare. Anyway, I'm going to get this line insulated, see how I can straighten it, see what I can do. I may have to wait. Some of it might have to wait till it has warm water in it before I can straighten it out, because it is fairly stiff. So I'm making progress on getting the insulation on the PEX. A couple things about this. I buy the insulation generally 1/2 inch thick, and you manually split it. It doesn't have an adhesive strip on it. A lot of them do. You peel off a thing and you supposedly glue the 2 halves back together after you put on the pipe. I've never gotten that to work well, and I inevitably have to tape it anyway. I used to use duct tape, and in the past I've used cable ties. There's a whole bunch of them stuck down there. I gotta get an end cutter to get them off. Cable ties work okay, but they're a little fiddly, especially if you're using one hand. But what I'm finding works really well is electrical tape. It's cheap, it's easy to apply, you can put on a lot of it, and it holds well. I'm taping individually to the insulation on each pipe, and then I'm taping, in this case, the 2 pipes together with the tape. So it works quite well. As far as the 1/2 inch of insulation, I'm going with it's a break between cost and affordability and durability and practicality. The thicker stuff would be nicer and it would keep things better off. But I've been using the 1/2 inch of this brand for a long time now in a lot of different projects, and it works so well. And I don't really see a bad trade-off even out, sitting out here. Now I'm going to wrap everything again in bubble wrap, which will also help insulate it. But for now, I'm just going to get this stuff on, and this will greatly help maintain the temperature in the pipes as I'm circulating it. So that's the theory anyway. All right, I'm just finishing up the final little bits for the moment. I do have to wait until these lines are full of hot water, and they should straighten out a lot. And then I will get everything massaged in position, put some more straps on it, and get it tucked in a little better. I think I've done pretty good for the tangly mess it was. I got along that board, running along the wall. Everything's insulated. I have run out of the 1 3/8 insulation for the 1 inch PEX. I think 1 1/8 inch, 1 3/8 is what I've been using. And I've gotten the 3/4 lines insulated as far as I can. So I'm using metal plumber's tape to hold things in place on the wall rather than trying to strap to the concrete. It's just faster. It's easier. I've got to take everything apart and straighten these lines out as soon as they're flexible enough to get them better situated. But I've run this stuff before like this. It's not ideal, but because we're using wood as a source of heat and it's renewable, and now with the thermal mass, the heat loss here, is acceptable for the time being. If this was electrically heated or with fuel of propane or something like that, I would not be doing this way, because there would be too much heat loss. It would be too costly. But I know for a fact this will work, and I can also re-insulate all this as well. You can see down here, there's some PEX that's been here probably for 9 years. And electrical tape worked well. It's still there. It may not be performing the ideal function, and we don't use that line anymore, but that was to help the coolant line to the vat pasteurizer, where we have a big tank buried, a geothermal tank. That's to chill the vat. And in the winter, it was freezing a lot when we were using it, the way we were using it. We've changed how it's done now, but that line would freeze because it was constantly under pressure. Now it drains back into the line, so it's not an issue. The pump is actually in the tank. We're gonna have to redo this because this is where the milking parlor goes all around me. Anyway, just the last thing I gotta do is get another strap, move this up here, and then I've got to rerun the electrical lines. I disconnected it inside so it wasn't bound up, it wrapped around all the hoses. I didn't want the electrical line. I mean, this is totally not practical to do it this way, but I've done it before and it worked fine for 3 years. So temporarily, because right now I'm going to run a couple of temporary lines to the boiler room to power it. Eventually there'll be solar power. There'll be a much different system and a bigger line, and there'll be more circuits in there. But for now, I'm just running a couple of 12 2 with grounds, and I'm just going to tape them to the outside of the PEX. I didn't want them to run right up against the PEX because that's too hot. You're not supposed to run. Code says you're not supposed to run electrical with plumbing lines, and certainly hot plumbing, this hot. But I can tie it loosely to this so it's tidy, and the insulation will be enough to keep it from overheating. Plus the fact that it's outside, it'll be fine. If I really was worried, I'd run it on the outside of the bubble wrap that I'm going to cover this all in, but that exposes it to the elements. I suppose I could put it on the outside fold. So there'll be something. Anyway, it is temporary. Eventually, I'm thinking what might have to happen when the parlor is in here, this may all get transferred to hardline. It'll be within the building envelope. We could plumb it all in 1-inch black iron, at least this part, and getting up into the barn it would be for probably better that way. I'm not sure. Costly, but I could also probably run PEX straight enough in the summer with a little heat and flexibility. I could redo this all in carefully mapped out PEX lines, or better yet, have a professional do that part of it, because I am realizing that this could have been done a lot sooner if I'd allowed myself to get help, and if we could have afforded a professional who does this regularly. A lot of this is straightforward heating stuff, and certainly an HVAC contractor who does hydronics would never allow this. So that's also why I'm doing it. The wood boiler installation, that's a little more complicated than I was when I was searching for someone, because the grant required us to have an expert and a quote from the expert on putting together and inspecting the system and everything. They're few and far between and expensive. So anyway, I gotta wrap this up because it's getting cold back here. Sun's about to go down soon. I still have a lot of work to do up there, and I'm really got to push myself. There's a couple things inside I want to try and get done tonight, because I am feeling a little bit more confident. Today would have been the day to be filling the lines, because it was 40 something out, but tomorrow's going to be 27. Still not horrendous. I think we could do this. The problem is I can't fill these lines because there's no way to, without all that being filled inside the container, because there's no way to circulate this line the way I have it set for optimal thermal use, with it drawing off the top of the hot storage tanks and returning it to the cold section at the bottom. It's not like a set of closely spaced tees where you're pulling the hot off and returning the cooler liquid within on the outflow within 3 inches of each other within the same line. Then you can just kind of circulate a pump and it doesn't have to have full flow. But in this case, I pretty much have to fill it from the container, get it coming up and in here, and as soon as that happens, as soon as water's in these lines down here, I can start filling from up above. But getting there is going to be the challenge, and what the temperature and the weather does. It won't take a lot to fill these 2 lines. I'm not going to run until the system is up and running, the boiler's up and running, and this is all straightened and insulated. I'm not going to run the hot water, domestic hot water, as it were, the industrial tanks, in these 2 3/4 lines, because they will freeze, because that's, unless I set them to drip, and then that is a waste of water and everything. So I'm not going to run those right away. I want to get everything up and running. I want the heating circuits to work, get this dialed in. I still have to insulate the tanks inside and insulate the piping inside once everything's up and running. So all that's going to happen before I engage the super hot water lines. I'm going to get them all plumbed up there, and I don't want to take the time right now to plumb them up there. I still have to plumb them and do some stuff up there with them. So yeah, here's where we're at. Let's get a move on. UPS just dropped off a package. I'm working on the control room, the milk room. Look at that sunset. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I'm in here in the barn in the milk wash room, which still needs a lot of work. But it's only, now that we've got the option for more heat, this will be better. I'm gonna have to relocate this outlet here. I gotta frame in this wall, but I'm gonna put a piece of plywood on here. That'll allow me to mount the 1 inch, and here's the old PEX going. That's the feed circuit and pump air for going into to the creamery, to the floor. I really wanted to insulate and frame this and do stuff, but time has gotten away from me. It is now 5:30, and I'm getting tired and cold. My hands are frozen. So temperature's starting to drop as well. So I'm going to push on and do what I can. I don't think... I was hoping to be able to mount this. This sits there. That's an air bleeder and creates the loop. And then I have to redo this closely spaced T cluster output input. So that will go on this part of the PEX line, and that I'll have to run a new stub here to accommodate this side of that arm. It's it's not going to go well if I push on too much more. I think that piece of plywood installed. I think I got to go below the barn and push these PEX up a little more. I was hoping to, I don't know why I put this together with such a long nipple there, but I got to figure out where that goes. It's a mess. Anyway, I did not get as far, turn this light off. I did not get as far today as I really wanted or needed to. Having a plow first thing this morning, and there were delays and cold weather problems with the parlor that set me back. Looking back on it, I really needed the 2 days of rest I took on the weekend. But if I hadn't taken those, I'd be running the boiler right now, probably. So, I don't know yet. I'm still debating filling the system with water tomorrow. High is going to be 27. I still have to flip a pump down there and tighten some unions. But I think once that's done, I could start filling that. The only problem is tomorrow is a high water usage day. Allison will need water for washing and for the creamery. So balancing getting that full and then and then it basically forces me at this point, because tomorrow night is going to be 11 degrees overnight. Tonight it's going to be 22, and it just keeps getting colder. So I hate to have to suck it and power everything with electricity, especially if the power goes out. But if the power goes out and I haven't got the system running, I'm screwed anyway, because I would have to run a generator constantly to keep the kerosene furnace going, to keep everything from freezing down there at the moment. Once everything is heated, once everything is hot and insulated and cooking along, that's not going to be an issue down there. And once it's full, it's not going to be an issue running water into it. And certainly once these lines are full and circulating, I shouldn't have to worry about them. Now, I've done that. So the other option tomorrow is to fill it with as much water as I can. Just the lower section. Keep this PEX line and stuff coming up to the barn off until the following day, and fill that. Now, that will mean that I have to run the kerosene salamander overnight tomorrow night. But it shouldn't be too onerous, because it was certainly doing well, keeping it at 50. And we're only running a couple minutes every half hour. So that could work tomorrow. And it was cold yesterday, like when I was running it. It just depends on how far I get. And then I could do this work up here tomorrow. Well, I could do this work. Yeah, nothing's happening Saturday. It's going to be bitter cold. It's 10 degrees is the high, but with the wind chill, it'll be 0 or minus. And there could be, that's the other problem with this whole plan. And now I'm pushed right up against this cold front, this sub-zero BS. There could be livestock issues. There could be all kinds of farm issues taking me away from the boiler. So today was really the make or break. I should have had it up and running today. with tomorrow as a as a fix and repair day, not as a charge them up and do day. But then there isn't a day above teens or 20 at the highest for weeks. Long-term forecast now. So that really locks me in. It just, all the delays on this project have really just pushed me right to the precipice. And, you know, do I go ahead and force the issue? If it weren't for our well being so pathetic, and charging so slow, and the fact that we were coming out of a drought, or we're still droughty and there might not be enough water in there, and it's going to be slow to recharge. We tried to buy water, you know, to fill it, get a tanker in here and, you know, 1,000 gallons and have them pump it in there. Nobody's doing it in the winter. So, there were not that volume anyway. So that, again, you know, an option that would just do it. It would just fill, no problem, no worries about burning out the well, no worries about the time it take. It would just be, you know, a couple hours, 10 gallons a minute or whatever, and just pump the water to it. But I just don't. Too many unknowns, I think, and the weather being one of them, could really cause issues. So I think I might be out of luck. I think I might not be filling the system tomorrow. And I got plenty to do. Not like I'll be twiddling my thumbs. All right, I'm going to get this board up. I'll keep you posted. You'll know before I do whether I do this or not. Well, I am down in the heat hut. Boiler room, boiler house. What are we calling this place? I came down here. It was bitter cold. It's 15 degrees outside, maybe 20. Friday morning, just before milking. I'm actually down here to work on the fence tester because calves keep getting out. So I can't find the appropriate screwdriver or tool to remove these screws easily. I'm making progress with what I'm doing with the little screwdriver I've got, but it's not appropriate. It's almost like these want to be they look to be a Torx bit, but the smallest Torx bit I have is too small, and the next size, standard next size up, is too big. So I don't think it's that. It could be some sort of weird square drive thing. A flat blade works, but this one is just that little bit too narrow, and the next size up is just too big to go in the recessed hole. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway, this thing's dead. I've got to replace the battery. I just had the blast furnace on because it was so cold in here, and now it reeks of diesel. But it is warmer. That door's cracked down there. I really need to put this man door in so that I can not keep opening up and going through the end. Because it's 15 out, and now they've lowered the expectation. The high was supposed to be 27, but there's going to be wind now, and so I don't think we're going to see 27. All right, there's that, and there's my battery that I got to replace. So I'm not going to even attempt. I thought that I could be close today. I thought that I could spin that pump around like I need to, and I could take care of one or two small things in here and finish what I was doing up in the barn later and start filling the system, use the furnace to help keep things from freezing. I'm not going to do that now. Although I am heartened to see that when I came down here, before I turned on the blast furnace, the coffee in this mug isn't frozen. So while the thermometers all say we are lower than 40 degrees, we are not freezing temperature. But that's got me thinking I'm going to leave a bottle of water down here. Or I'm going to take this back up to the house. And leave some container of water down here because I may run the furnace, just the salamander, just to keep things warm in here so they don't get so cold that it's harder to heat them up. But there's no way, because we're going to get slammed. They're now predicting over 2 feet of snow, maybe split between 2 storms, maybe back-to-back storms of 12 inches and then 24 inches. We don't know yet. And also we've got high winds and negative actual temperatures and deep negative wind chills. So if the power goes out, I'm going to be fighting keeping the rest of the farm from freezing. The house is fine. It's got its own generator, but I'll have to use the generator. The portable generator we have will have to be used. In fact, I need to get it going today. It'll be necessary for milking, for keeping the creamery from freezing, things like that. I can't have it down here running this furnace to keep a half full system from freezing. So, and just the time concern, if I'm fighting, I still have probably a full day of farming today. I'm gonna sneak in some boiler work, maybe up in the barn. But I've got a meeting this morning. I've been out already. I've got to get bales to the cows. I've got to get bedding to the cows. I've got to look after the calves and find out why they're breaking out of their fence. All that will eat away my day. And so it's not worth the risk of partially filling this system and then having to fight it while we're fighting temperature. So we're just gonna grin and bear it, suck it up, and pay for the electricity to be keeping the creamery from freezing. Now there is an issue with that, because keeping the creamery from freezing right now is costing a lot, but we haven't had the deep cold, we haven't had the wind and the negative temperature. So I probably take the little other space heater out of here and bring it up there. We just bought a 5th space heater because without the radiant slab and the radiators up there, it's going to be freaking cold. And the cheese will suffer, and we can't have that. So anyway, but there's just no way, no way I can get this system full. And if there were any leaks or anything, problem solve that and get the boiler going. It has to, anyway, I got to replace this battery and get that fence fixed so the cows can stay in, and we got to get milking so that I can go to my meeting, or I can meet with my USDA guy here and figure out this year's plans, if there is anything the USDA can help us with. Colder weather, and I can film it because I just need to get it done. We moved the livestock trailer into the field with the calves. Now they have access to the calf shelters back in the old orchard, but they really, because I'm feeding them up front here, because there's easier access for the bales and also this is a lot more area for them to be in, and they're not damaging the big apples. They're spending more time here than back there. So just in case they decide in the wind or something not to go to the known shelters, we've thrown the trailer in the field so that they can bed down in there. I'm sure they'll be nice and cozy. And we're expecting tonight, it's already really windy. The high today was 27, but by dusk it had said it was 22, but I don't believe it. It felt in the teens because of the wind. And we're supposed to be negative wind chills tomorrow, so yeah, having that trailer in there ain't a problem. It'll be having that trailer in there is just an extra touch of coziness for my babies. I've come into the kitchen to heat up a sock full of lentils because the pulsators aren't working. It is minus something in the teens out there with the wind chill. It is brutal. I got these on because it's so bright and stuff's blowing all over. There's a fine snow that fell last night that's blowing all over the place. I got my insulated bibs on. yeah, we're getting a late start milking because we tried to let it get as warm as possible. It did increase a little bit, but with the wind's actually picking up. Still got to take care of all the livestock. Everybody was good overnight. There's some icicles hanging down off the barn that I'm not happy about. Might have to see if I got a way of dealing with that. But otherwise, it's a day to stay inside. But I still got chores to do. I'm going to get this sock down to Allison. Hopefully we can get the pulsators going, because otherwise it's going to be brutal. Everything else is working okay. It's just that tiny little, that exchange of taking the pulsators from warm to cold. Whatever the air trapped inside the pulsator condenses, and whatever moisture, even though it's been dry, 24 hours, it condenses and freezes up, and they don't work. That is a problem at this temperature. Anything lower than 20 degrees, we have no end of problems. This is some of the deepest cold we've had. I don't think we've had this kind of cold 10 years at least. We have stretches, where there's a couple days, but this is actually going to be coming up on weeks, a couple weeks at this temperature. All right, that's warm enough. I got to get that back down to the parlor. Well, executive decisions have been made. I'm filling up water buckets here from the warm tap. I'm going to use the sled to take the water and feed to the calves up front rather than the skid steer, because it just doesn't seem to make sense to run the skid steer for a half hour to get it warmed up to use it for 5 minutes. I have no other use for the skid steer today. We've decided to take today off and work inside or just relax today a little bit more than we would normally on a Saturday, and we'll do any makeup work tomorrow, just because I'm in the lee of the wind right now in this corner of the barn and the creamery, and it's nice here, but step out beyond the barn there and it's vile. The wind is just cut you right through. And literally, it's that cold. So, yeah, if I don't have to run the skid steer today, that would be for the best. It would run and I could use it, but it doesn't make sense to take this temperature. It takes a half hour to warm up the hydraulic fluid enough to make it practical to use and safe. And so, yeah, it won't kill me to sled this stuff up there. I filled the buckets too full probably, but they'll be all right. I may make a second trip with more water later today. Well, things are going pretty good, despite the cold weather and bitter wind, but the bulk tank didn't turn on yesterday was a cheese making day, so it got emptied and washed, and it sat there until this morning. You can't run it without milk in it. And you have to have a certain level of milk in it before you start it, or the milk will freeze. So I did that on the third bucket of milk going in. Normally fires right up. Well, I just went back in there now to pour the fifth and sixth buckets of milk, and the compressor isn't running, so I gotta go see if I can jump start it. I don't know why we have a heater on there. I should be keeping it at temperature and insulation. I'm going to change the bit of my drill. Fortunately, everything's down here in the heat container. But yeah, we're screwed if we can't get that going. It's Saturday. And there's no way we're going to get a service call on that. Or anybody will work in bitter cold weather. Having that compressor outside was the stupidest decision I ever let anybody talk me into. I had wanted to put it inside the barn. Oh no, that's not what you do. The barn will get too warm, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? Damn compressor does not run when it's below 20. Unless you mess with it. So, all right, I can't do this. All right, I gotta stop the video. This door won't stay shut. Behind me is going to blow open. There is frost on the inside of the container. I don't know if you can see that, but I perish to think what the temperature in here is. But I cannot let this wind blow in here. Let's see if I can get that door closed. Maybe it'll stay long enough for me to get the bit that I need. But holy cow. I will not be working down here today because I fear it will use up the whole tank of propane, kerosene to fight the temperature to make it possible to work in here. And I don't actually have that much to do until I'm ready to fill these. So I might as well leave the work down here for the moment until we've got better temperatures, because I'm not going to be filling the system anytime soon now that the weather's gotten so bad. I've got the bit that I need. Go see if I can get this thing going. All right, I gotta take this foam panel off. There's supposed to be a heater in here that is not running. Damn it. Why was that not running? That keeps this area warm. Now, hit this reset. I have to leave that running with this closed. Let this warm up and come back to it. Because, yeah, that heater should have been cranked and kicking out heat in here. It just has to be a couple degrees above 20 in there. It'll be fine. But the wind coming straight out of the west against this, it was the stupidest decision to put this condenser unit out here. I wanted to put it up behind those windows on the inside and use those windows as the vent access. But now that we got this plumbed in here, we're not going to do any changing because it's too costly. It was a lot of money to get this stuck in here. There are some other things I could put in there besides that heater. I guess I'm going to have to consider that. There's a heating element that wraps around the condenser unit. All right, let's just put this on enough to hold it in place. This may start on its own, or I'll have to come back down here in an hour and mess with it. And if it doesn't start, then we're kind of screwed with the milk we just made today. I'll have to ditch it. Damn. All right, that's just too brutal for words. Yeah, the wind is blasting straight in here.